There's going to be an extensive ground campaign undertaken by Israeli military into the Gaza Strip to root out Hamas. It's going to be horrifically bloody. A lot of people are going to die. How does that, and the anticipation of that necessary, is it necessary? Defensive, is it defensive? Mobilization by Israel against Hamas, which is deeply embedded, dug in underground within the Gaza territory. How does that affect your thinking about this? I mean, because we're not anywhere near the end of this. We're not even at the end of the beginning of this. I shudder to think that the bitterness and the vitriol and the hatred and the animosity, enmity that we've seen over the last couple of weeks will be sustained and amplified and entrenched as we go forward. I don't know. Do you share my foreboding here? I'm really. It's a dark, dark time that we're entering into here.
It's horrible. It can only be less bad, and that's the best that it can be, and it can only be so much less bad. I mean, even last time we talked, I was saying that I worry about the idea of going in and flattening Gaza. What would that do, especially since it would only bide time? I would say at this point that it seems to me that the idea, and listen to me, a non-expert on this situation, but it seems to me that as many people who live in Gaza should be gotten south and beyond as possible. But the tragedy is that Hamas is not going to stop that. There is nothing we can do to make them stop that. They are not the PLO. They don't want to sit at a table and negotiate. They want Israel to go away, and they're not going to stop wanting Israel to go away. And so to not try to exterminate them, I think it's become clear this time in particular, is to essentially settle for things maybe being calm for 5 years or 10 years, and then they're going to do it again. Glenn, I'm not sure I can say that, I'm someone who Quakerism played a major role in my childhood, and even if it hadn't, I think I'd feel this way. War is hell. I would like to be a pacifist. Sometimes that just doesn't work because Hamas won't stop. And if they don't go in there and uproot Hamas, not Palestinians, but Hamas, then this is going to keep going. And so if it's possible to go in and seal off the tunnels and really make it so that there is no more Hamas, despite the fact that thousands of Palestinians and thousands of Israelis would die in the effort, I can't see any other way. And this is the test that I gave myself 20 years ago with Iraq. To say that I think we should do this, and I was mistaken about Iraq. Colin Powell and the media fooled me. I thought we were going in there for a reason. I should have known better. But I remember thinking, if I'm going to espouse this, would I go? Would I go and get my legs blown off? And at the time, I said yes. If this were my effort, I would go in there because I really do worry about X, Y, and Z. And in this case, if I were Israeli, yeah. I mean, I think I'm maybe getting too old for it really to matter, but let's say I'm saying this at 35. Yeah, because otherwise Hamas isn't going to stop. And you can talk about why they're not going to stop, et cetera, but the fact is they're not. What else could be done other than going in and smoking them out? How do you feel about that?
Well, I said I have a sense of foreboding, and I feel that I'm looking over the precipice into a chasm that goes down very deep. And I think the word tragedy, historical tragedy, is apt. I'm no military expert, but I have been following a few of them as they comment on the tactical problem of actually rooting out Hamas in the Gaza territory. It's not even clear that it can be done. I mean, you can kill a lot of people, you can destroy a lot of infrastructure, but do you end up with a even more fiercely mobilized hatred of your presence and a determination to resist and to fight, what are you going to do? You're going to kill them all? You're not going to kill them all. So there's that. Again, I'm not an expert. People tell me that the risk of a wider regional war being precipitated by the slaughter that would ensue if a serious operation on the ground to root out Hamas were undertaken, the slaughter not of thousands, probably of tens of thousands, maybe of hundreds of thousands, that one is playing with fire here. One doesn't know where, second front in the north, Iran is drawn in, Turkey. There's bloodlust. Maybe you've seen some of the comments, about the revenge that needs to be wrought on those Palestinians, not just the fighters at Hamas, but, I'm depressed here about this.
That revenge is more laziness. That's the easy way out. You resist that if you're trying to think on a higher level. And everything that you're saying, yes, we're going beyond what we have any expertise in terms of what the wider ramifications might be. I can't get away from, if you don't go into Gaza now, and I don't know if anybody would have said this 10 years ago, but if you don't go in this time, they're going to do it again. And the idea is to eliminate most of the leadership and to eliminate the tunnels. If that could be done relatively quickly, say 6 months, maybe that, even with the risk of larger repercussions, would be better than taking the higher road and leaving Gaza kind of under some sort of supervision, but it's the same old thing, with a new generation growing up with absolutely nothing to do. They barely have jobs. They're penned into that area, for better or for worse, where what they live for, their whole sense of identity, is based on hating Israel. And then this will happen again. It'll be very easy to find men who are willing to die to kill more Israelis. I have the hardest time seeing that as what is the good thing to do now. But anybody getting blown up, horrible thing. That person has a family. That person valued their life as much as we do. And for it to happen in the thousands. But I'm not sure I see anything else.
You're going to kill a lot of civilians. You're going to lose a lot of your own people. It's door to door, block to block, basement to basement, tunnel to tunnel. Tactically, it's a nightmare, I'm told. Again, I don't really have.
It's not like just doing it from the air. Yeah.
And politically, I imagine the Israeli political establishment, the Netanyahu government, and so on, the IDF, have to come with a heavy hand.
Yeah.
To maintain their own legitimacy in the face of this horrific.
This is the last government you would want to have behind this. Yes, exactly.
And yet I'm sitting over here entertaining the idea of this kind of world historic gesture of recognizing, looking 3 moves down the line, recognizing that there, at the end of the day, is no military solution to this problem. There is only a political solution. That's the only thing that's going to stick. Somehow, the land between the river and the sea has to be divided somehow between Israeli and Palestinian. I have no idea how that's going to be accomplished, but my gut is telling me that you say it'll happen again anyway, without the political solution. So this world historic gesture would be to forbear. Of course, there has to be some response, but would be not to have it at the scale that roots out every tunnel and ferrets out every fighter and, quote, eliminates them. I'm going to stop. The longer I talk, the more trouble I'm going to get myself into, because I'm speculating off the top of my head.